Hi, everybody. My name is Vanta Park, and the session today is about CARE registry, and we're going to talk about what is CARE, how to use CARE, community perspectives in research and partnerships with CARE, and a user testimonial, as well as Q&A raffles and a very brief survey evaluation. So before we get started, I would like to just introduce some housekeeping and also do brief introductions with the presenters. For logistical stuff, if everyone can make sure you're muted, and unless, of course, you have a question, feel free to type in any questions you may have in the chat or raise your hand. You may raise your hand for questions at the end of the whole entire presentation, or we can probably have time for one or two questions immediately after each presenter, depending on our time. And then if you can indulge us, introduce yourself in the chat as well, saying your name, what institution or organization you're from, and yeah, and maybe if it's not obvious in the name, where you are located in the US. Okay, so I will start with introductions. My name is Vanta Park, and I am a multiple principal investigator for CARE. I'm a faculty or professor at UCSF School of Nursing, and I'm very delighted to have you join us. I'd like to introduce Josh Grill.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Josh Grill. I'm a faculty member at the University of California at Irvine and a co-investigator on CARE with Dr. Park.
You're an MPI. And I would like to introduce Dr. Hye-Won Shin.
Hello, very nice meeting you. My name is Hye-Won. I actually have two roles in CARE. One is the Community Advisory Board representing Sumeng Society, and also the researcher in at UCI Mind. So my role at UCI Mind is as the Asian American community outreach. So I build a collaborative network with the community organizations serving Asian American seniors and provide scientific evidence-based education to those communities and let them aware about the research update as well as importance of research participation, especially Alzheimer's dementia research. Very nice meeting you all.
Thank you, Dr. Shin. And then we also have a special guest, Dr. William Tsai.
Hi, everyone. I'm Will Tsai. I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Applied Psychology at New York University, and I'm a user of CARE, and I'm excited to share with you all later my experiences using it.
Okay, thank you so much. And again, I'm just going to repeat myself just once more. If for those who are just joining us, if you can indulge us and type in your name and organization or institution, and if it's not obvious in the name, if you can say where you're located in the US.
Okay.
And also, if you didn't see it in the introduction or in the agenda, we will also have raffles at the end. So it's a way to incentivize everyone to stay, and we hope you learn and enjoy this presentation. Okay, so we will start with an overview of the CARE registry. I think many of us, if not all of us here, are already familiar with who Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islander communities are or comprised of. But Just briefly, Asian Americans are the fastest growing racial group in the US, comprising almost 8% of the US population. We know there's tremendous diversity in terms of languages, cultures, diets, immigration experiences, religions, social economic status, etc. And I think many of you are may also know that there is significant diversity in English proficiency as well. And we will post these slides, by the way, on our website, so you can retrieve them and review them later. But I just wanted to share what we probably all already know, which is there's just diversity in with the communities of who self-identify as ANHPI, and therefore we need a lot of research and attention for our communities here. Next slide, please. So there's disparities in research participation for ANHPI populations. Research has found that less than 1% and actually 0.17% of NIH's total budget between 1992 and 2018 comprised or targeted or funded projects targeting ANHPI populations. And I don't think I need to go there about why that is just a terrible and sad statistic. And even for certain health conditions, including Alzheimer's disease, there are significant underrepresentation of ANHPI participating in Alzheimer's disease research. And then you can see in the second bullet here that the US have a number of ADRC or Alzheimer's disease research centers, and less than 3% of the participants self-identified as ANHPI. There are many considerations when engaging ANHPI communities to participate in research, and many of which I had described earlier when I alluded to the diversity, cultural, linguistic diversity. We need to increase awareness and engage with our communities about A, what research is, and B, the importance of research to the targeted communities. We also need to do this with research communities such as ourselves here, the researchers and other stakeholders who serve the ANHPI communities, as well as sponsors or funders. Next slide, please. And so many collaborators, academic and community partners really felt very strongly that we need to pave the way for meaningful inclusion of ANHPI participants in research. And so, fortunately, the NIH, NIA agreed and supported it. Supported and through an R24 and is continuing to support us through an R01. The CARE Research Recruitment Registry is the largest recruitment registry and only one that we are aware of that solely focuses on ANHPI populations in the US. And the registry was launched during the pandemic in October 2020 with goals to reduce the disparities in participation in ADRD, aging, caregiving, and other health issues across the lifespan among ANHPI populations. And we aim to give a voice to our communities and to implement culturally appropriate and innovative recruitment strategies in collaboration, again, with our the trusted sources of information, our community partners. Next slide, please. And here are some of the logos, or a lot of the logos you can see here, and they're just so pretty. It's so nice. And this is I think this was our first CAB meeting for CARE 2.0. We actually just recently had one, but we forgot to take a picture. And you can see here it's hybrid, so you can see the Zoom in the background. Next slide, please. So who can enroll in the registry? It's quite simple. You just have to self-identify as ANHPI, and you have to be 18 years or older, and that's because we are inclusive of those who are caregivers, and speak and/or read English, Chinese, Hindi, Korean, Vietnamese, or Samoan, and interested in participating potential research. Now, this is our CARE 1.0 eligibility criteria. We, as I mentioned, we just got an R1 to support CARE 2.0, and we are working extremely hard with our new and current partners to launch CARE 2.0, anticipation launch in the spring, to include additional languages and expand strategically in the US. We asked the participants questions about their sociodemographics, health conditions, health behaviors, and caregiving experiences if it applies to them. And we have multilingual registry and staff to support the enrollment. Next slide, please. Here's a snapshot of our CARE participants, majority born outside the US. Because CARE 1.0 began, really originated as a California-based registry, at least in our application. And then the COVID pandemic hit, and we just decided to allow people from outside California to enroll. Again, with CARE 2.0, we expect and anticipate that more people from outside California will enroll. About 11% of our registry are caregivers. And the statistic that I'm very proud of, that we are all very proud of, is the fact that majority, 80% or nearly 81%, reported having no prior research participation experience. This symbolizes the just excellent job our community academic partners have done to reach out to members of the community who have maybe not even heard about what research is, and to explain and engage about the importance of research and asking them to participate in research. Mean age of our group is 52, and 58% have a limited English proficiency. Nearly 14% reported having ADRD symptoms. Next slide, please. So I'm not going to go through every bullet here, but this is all the details about the CARE, how to submit a CARE referral request, or if, in other words, if for those who are interested in using CARE as a recruitment source, it's online. It's very simple. You just complete a request referral form, and you explain what your study is or whether it's funded or not funded yet. We do provide letters of support to studies if they are looking to use CARE as a recruitment source. Someone in CARE reviews it, may have questions for you, and then they will ask. And then once it's approved, we will share the preferred contact information with you. Next slide, please. Here, I've already said all this. And then there's some ask of the investigators, and that's our way of trying to keep track and get some metrics data. Next slide, please. Here's the link. You can just visit the CARE registry website and click on the researcher tab. Next slide, please. As of January 22, or very recently, we've had almost 100 requests and have provided more than 5,500 CARE participants preferred contact information to at least one CARE supported studies. And you can see here the diversity and funding source. Majority are either ADRD or caregiving studies, and Some studies have support in English only, and some have support in more than one, or in English and another ANHPI language. Next slide, please. Okay, now it's Dr. Grill's turn.
Thank you, Van. So as Van mentioned, I have become multiple principal investigator with Dr. Janice So for the R01 that's funding CARE 2.0, but I'd be remiss if I didn't begin by giving credit where credit is due, and that's really to Dr. Park, Dr. Top Park, because CARE was really her brainchild, and she led it with grace and with a commitment, a true and passionate commitment for community-based partnership, which is really, I think, why it's been so successful. And you saw that it has been very successful with recruiting a very large and rich population of more than 10,000 Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, and now turning that into enrollment into studies that are requesting use from CARE. So I think she really deserves a lot of credit, as do all the partners that have helped us get this far. Nevertheless, I am grateful for the opportunity to play a leadership role in CARE 2.0. I've got a longstanding interest in recruitment science and the use of registries. UCI was a site in the CARE 1.0, and we here have a long interest in seeing inclusion of Asian communities in aging and especially ADRD research. So I'm going to try to be efficient, leave time for other speakers. We can go to the next slide. What I'm going to do in my brief few slides is just help people brainstorm the ways that they might utilize CARE to support their own research. These are outlined here, and I'll walk through them in more detail, but you could imagine serving members of CARE to support your own research goals, or even recruiting participants from CARE into your study, or maybe even doing a whole study just in or from CARE as a source of participants. We can go to the next slide, and we'll again ask folks to mute themselves if they're not speaking. So we have had a number of investigators reach out about doing surveys of CARE registrants. This could be a survey that you're going to do exclusively within CARE, or you might have a survey that you're using and you want to send it to the members of CARE as well. That might be specific subgroups of CARE, it might be all of CARE. There's a lot of opportunity to think about ways to achieve your research goals. This could be for the purpose of needs assessment to instruct the types of work you're doing in your community. It could be preliminary data for a grant application you're working on, or again, you could really try to just answer a scientific question, publish it, and move on with CARE as your whole source of data collection. Next slide. My examples really are born out of my own laboratory and the types of things that we do, but one could imagine doing a study where you hypothesize that immigration status, for example, is a really important factor in how people consider whether they're willing to participate in research. So you could design a query with the investigators from CARE, and Van highlighted the openness that CARE investigators have to bi-directional communication with investigators that want to use it as a resource. Once you achieve kind of the final status of agreement about what you're trying to do and in whom with the CARE team, then that survey might go to the eligible registrants in CARE to complete the survey, and you could try to interrogate your research question. At the end, I'll talk about some important caveats if you did do that, but this is a truly unique and fantastic opportunity. Next slide. Alternatively, you may be doing prospective research that requires things like in-person interviews or blood draws, etc. And there you might want to instead seek to recruit participants from CARE into your study. This, again, you might imagine doing your whole study recruiting from CARE, or you might be trying to simply produce a more inclusive and generalizable sample in your study, and CARE might be an opportunity for you to do a better job of being inclusive of Asian Americans in your study. And it might introduce other opportunities down the road as you think about the data that you're collecting, for example, comparing by race or ethnicity on the outcomes that you're assessing in your study. Next slide. So this is really the crux of why CARE was created, was to support this type of recruitment. We really hope to see those numbers that Van began with improve, that we will see better inclusivity and representation of Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders in aging, dementia, and caregiving research, and that CARE can really be an opportunity for folks to do better with that. Next slide, and I think really my last slide, which is that with any registry, investigators need to be aware, cautious, and consider that there are some caveats that come with recruiting from registries. So if you recruited all of your Asian American participants from CARE and compared them to white, non-Hispanic white participants recruited from another registry or from another source, then you would be potentially introducing an important confound to your study. Is it that the folks you recruited from CARE are Asian, or is it that they were in CARE as a registry or in any registry at all for that matter? So it's important to keep these types of caveats in mind. It's important to remember that CARE is not an epidemiologic community-based cohort. So by answering a question in CARE, it doesn't necessarily mean that you've answered a question about all Asian Americans or all Asian immigrants or specific subgroups of Asian populations that you recruited from CARE. So you really want to think about these types of issues as you're designing your study, introduce controls whenever possible, introduce diverse sources of participants, including Asian, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander participants, and strive to make sure that you're doing the best possible job of answering a question with generalizable data while also being inclusive. And again, the CARE investigators are happy to engage with you to think through these types of issues and help you do the best job of possible. But we really are so very pleased to have this as a resource to help investigators do a better job of being inclusive of these unique populations in aging and ADRD research. I think that's it for me. And so I will turn it over to my colleague, Dr. Shin, to talk about the very important perspective of community-based organizations in CARE.
Thank you, Dr. Green. Hello, everyone. My name is Hye Won. I'm representing Sumang Society, a community organization serving Korean American seniors for the past 17 years. So we promote well-aging, well-being, and well-dying of Korean American seniors and their family caregivers for the past 17 years. Under our well-aging mission, we provide Care Class, which is a social program for individuals experiencing early stage dementia. And we also run Korean-speaking caregiver support groups, as well as dementia education in both English and Korean. Next slide, please. On the well-dying mission, we run multiple seminars, forums, and conferences, and we educate Korean American seniors and their family caregivers on advanced healthcare directives, dementia, and dementia caregiving. And we also provide emergency contact cards for seniors. Next slide. On the well-being mission, we actually committed to saving lives in Chad, Africa. So we developed almost 600 clean water wells and 10 schools in Chad as of today. Next slide, please. So we annually serve about 25,000 Korean American seniors and their family members. Most of them lives in Southern California but also other US states. And we have our own YouTube channels, and our YouTube channels has about 1,600-ish subscribers, and we provide information on dementia caregiving, as well as the advanced care directives as well. And we provide quarterly newsletters and senior resource guide. We typically distribute over 15,000 to 20,000 Korean households. As of today, almost 16,000 Korean American seniors completed advanced healthcare directives, and over 2,200 registered for the UCI Will the Body program to advance. They want to contribute their body for the medical research. And we've been engaged 4 active research projects and 2 active community projects, and have 8 completed research and community projects since 2018. Next slide, please. So as a community partner for CARE and with CARE, we really see that the academic and trusted community-based organization partnership is critical to advancing Alzheimer's disease research, dementia caregiving, and etc., because it synergizes the rigorous scientific expertise of academic institutions with the invaluable real-world experiences and perspectives brought forth by community organizations like us, like Stomach Society. For example, we have observed that Korean seniors, at least the Korean seniors, express concerns regarding data security and confidentiality. They tend to view surveys with a skepticism because they didn't trust and they have concerns how their data being treated and stored. But through culturally competent and linguistically appropriate education, we successfully change and alter their perception and assure them that their data is handled with confidentiality. That's our experience so far. And we also didn't know seniors do not use Amazon. So when we told them like, yeah, you will get $10 Amazon gift card, many seniors said, oh, I don't know how to use the Amazon and I'm not using the Amazon at all. So we learned a lot from the community as well too. So the value here is really this collaborative approach not only enhance the depth and breadth of research effort, but also ensures the studies are culturally sensitive, inclusive, and directly applicable to our very diverse AA and HPI communities affected by Alzheimer's dementia and people who serve their loved ones with Alzheimer's dementia and many other conditions. And ultimately, we believe this accelerate the process towards effective prevention, diagnosis, and treatment strategies through this collaboration. Thank you. And I'm turning the mic to Dr. William Tsai.
Thank you, Dr. Shin. And I just want to thank the CARE team also for inviting me again to give my experiences with using CARE. It's been a great opportunity for me to recruit more participants, and also I think just generally such a great thing for the research community. Next slide, please. So today I'm going to share with you 2 studies that I used the CARE registry with. I'll just spend a couple minutes to explain what the study is doing. Basically, I have 2 randomized controlled trials that looked at how different versions of expressive writing may help Chinese cancer survivors and also Chinese cancer caregivers improve their mental health and quality of life. I'm testing something called expressive helping, which is kind of an adaptation of expressive writing that is no longer just emotional disclosure that you typically see in expressive writing interventions, but also this additional peer support, peer helping writing prompt. This was called or coined expressive helping by Dr. Chris Rini at Northwestern. And one of the design features of a writing intervention is, of course, you can send this printed writing intervention to people's homes. So these people don't have to leave their homes. They don't have to go to a clinic visit. They can complete this intervention online or with printed materials anywhere they like. And also another nice thing about writing interventions is that people can write in the language of their choice. So oftentimes we have older age Chinese immigrants who may not be able to write in English. They can definitely write in Chinese. And also there's some cultural stigma about help seeking, about interpersonal disclosures, maybe less willingness to talk about their distressing emotions and thoughts in the support group setting. Some of this can be overcome through personal writing interventions. Next slide, please. And so, as I mentioned, I used I used the Care Registry for 2 different studies, and these are 2 separate RCTs. One focusing on caregivers, a family member with cancer. These individuals needed to be over 18 years old, self-reported of Chinese descent, and currently providing care to a family member who's diagnosed with any cancer type, and they had to be living in the United States. And then the other trial focused on cancer survivors, and we define them as those who have completed their primary cancer treatment within the past 5 years. We decided on 5 years because we wanted them to still have some of their cancer experiences more salient and fresh in their mind. And these are individuals between 18 and 80 years old, self-reported of Chinese descent, living in the US as well. Next slide, please. And so I just want to share 2 excerpts. These are examples of what our participants have written by participating in our study. So basically, we assign them to different conditions where they receive different writing prompts. And the idea is to see if different writing prompts would result in different mental health outcomes. So from the Chinese cancer caregiver, this person wrote, "Although I find nothing to smile about on this occasion, I have to attest that some positive things have happened to me so far. The bond you create with whom you're giving care is just great and something that gives you strength every day. You'll see the essence of humanity and get to appreciate what life means. Peace and well-being are paramount to us, and it is in caregiving that you get to see what it means. However, even though you're in that situation, one got to be cheerful and give its best." And then we have another prompt or excerpt written by a cancer survivor. This person wrote, "I'm especially grateful for my husband and daughter. They were there for everything, including taking me to the hospital, doctor visits, waiting outside the surgery room, to staying with me when I was hospitalized, taking care of the house when I was unable to, cleaning me, feeding me, and never complaining. I'm grateful that I can deeply feel the love of my family, the loyalty, and the care they gave to me. My partner is the one closest to me in this life, and I treasure him." These are just some common examples of what our participants have written, and it's sort of an illustration of how some of the processes that we hope to facilitate through the writing prompts may occur. Next slide, please. So we used many different recruitment strategies in these studies, everything ranging from posting our ads on social media groups, such as Facebook groups focusing on cancer-related content, online Chinese forums. We purchase ads on Chinese serving newspapers such as World Journal. We have many different community partnerships with Chinese serving organizations such as the Chinese Planning Council in New York City. We have some physician collaborators who refer to us participants, word of mouth, and then, of course, finally using the Care Registry. Next slide, please. So for the caregiver trial, we actually requested for 2 batches of participants. The first time in April 2022, and then the second time in May 2022. So the first time, we were able to get contact information from 25 people. We were able to eventually reach 10 of 25, almost half of them, which I thought at the time was extremely high. Going in, I wasn't sure how likely we were able to get responses, especially because of what we were asking people to do, right? We were asking people to do an experiment where they had to write for 3 weeks, once per week for 3 consecutive weeks, and then do a bunch of baseline surveys, follow-up surveys. So it's not a simple, interview for 30 minutes or do a survey for 30 minutes. It's a very long process. But instead of reading that description, they still returned our calls or texts or emails. We were able to reach 10 of them. Unfortunately, 7 of the 10 were no longer caregiving, so they were not eligible. But if we didn't have that currently caregiving eligibility, we probably would have gotten a lot more. Similar with the second batch, we were able to reach almost half of them. And then for the cancer survivor trial, we had 43 contact information or contact information for 43 people from our first batch. And again, we were able to reach almost half of them, 24 out of 43, which was, I think, incredibly high, considering that these are older age Chinese individuals who have just been diagnosed with cancer or have complete treatment years ago. As you can see, 10 of 24 were not eligible, but they did talk to us. And so ultimately 8 of 24 enrolled and consented, but that again would have been much higher, I think, if we didn't have that completed treatment within the last 5 years. We wanted that because we wanted to make sure when they're writing, they're still, the cancer experience is still more salient to their mind. And then if you can see, as you can see, the second batch and third batch, we have relatively similar rates. Really, we were able to reach over half of them. The main reason that they didn't consent is because they weren't eligible due to that treatment over 5 years. But overall, it's really good sort of response rates from just cold emailing, cold texting, cold calling. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to highlight some of the qualities that was from my experience. The application instructions were really well organized. Everything was clear. This was my first time using a registry to recruit participants, and also my first time having to get IRB approval on using a registry for recruitment. And that was surprisingly easy. I just had to add a modification request to my existing IRB approved study and just write, I'm going to use the CARE registry, gave a little information on what it was, that I found from the website, and just got it approved within the next couple of days. I am extremely impressed with the attention paid to the different demographic and caregiving information that was collected. I was able to specifically request those who are providing care to someone who's been diagnosed with cancer. So these are all very specific criteria, and that was easily met. And then again, as I mentioned earlier, the response rate was surprisingly high, considering 80% of these individuals have not previously participated in research. So that's really wonderful to see. And I think a testament to probably these people's experiences when they were enrolled in care, right? They probably had great community partners who explained the benefit and reason why this is being done. And so overall, these participants from the CARE registry, I think, are people who are excited for research studies. Next slide, please. It was important for my team, and we've been doing this consistently with all of our other recruitment strategies, is being aware of the fact that most of these participants in our studies will not have had participated in research before. And so it's important that our research team that is trained in their first encounters, right? So they need to practice how to explain the study that they're asking people to do in a way that's easy to understand. Not assuming that people understand what the consent process is, and spending extra time to making sure that participants really understand what they're being asked to do. And then also, although we had really high response rates, most people didn't respond after the first time we reached out. So being persistent in reaching out multiple times and really using all the available contact information that we had, not just texting, but also sending an email, and in some cases, sending out printed postal mail to people's addresses. Next slide, please. So that's my experience with CARE. And if you have any questions with using CARE or about my studies, you can feel free to email me. Overall, it's been a great thing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tsai. I am just, so happy watching your presentation and learning more about your research and your successes, and also sharing the lessons learned. And I'm also grateful to Dr. Shin for sharing her.
Hi, my name is June. I was just wondering if your notary is in today.
Sorry, I just muted. And I just want to also acknowledge Dr. Shin and her leadership with CARE and providing very outstanding community perspectives as well. And of course, Dr. Grill, who is an MPI. And I want to acknowledge Dr. Janice So, who is here, who is our other MPI joining us from Tokyo. And of course, everyone here you can see on our slide, want to acknowledge our registry participants. And the outstanding and extensive team that we have here.